Today I would like to talk about my fairly recent insights into seeking, into the path, and how to basically make peace with yourself about this struggle to know and the struggle to never really find your answers here now and always be on this in this place where you feel under tension between something you want to reach in the future and where you are now, and like always living in that space to go away from where you are now to something, if it's material or if it's mental or spiritual or anything. It's really getting you away from where you actually want to be. And reading more about spiritual seeking has its place, but there comes a point where it just no longer serves your purpose, and it actually is counterproductive to what you want to reach. And I found out that no matter how good your theories about enlightenment, about the path, about how to reach higher states of consciousness, all these practices, at a point they are just pulling you away from the actual state of realization that you can embody as a human being. And these highest states of knowing, of being, and of embodying the truth, they are not found within any theory. And what knowledge and theory is actually doing is kind of strengthening the illusion that you actually try to get away from. And I found out that the best thing to do at the point is just to rest in being and to really focus your practice on meditating all day. When I do this and when I remember to do it throughout the day, it's just the best practice. And with that, you have to accept. You have to accept that you feel you don't know. You have to accept that you might live in illusions, that you are having this illusion of separation between you and objects, that you think about your world as object and subject. And when you try to fight this, actually you strengthen this illusion and you give rise to it. And by really getting into the moment with acceptance, with that everything as it is, with those illusions, as other objects are part of your experience, those illusions are part of your experience, and you just accept all of it, and that really gets your seeking to a different place where you are no longer seeking anything outside of now, because there is nothing outside of now, and seeking anything beyond what is will actually not be possible for a human being. You have to realize that what you actually are is a limitation on reality itself. When you are in that state of normal human consciousness, no matter how low or high your consciousness is, you will always have to limit reality to allow for your experience. And what that means is your strive and your struggle to realize more of it, to know it all, is just counter to what your human nature is. So in a sense, when you want to reach those higher states of consciousness, which you can do through intensive meditative practices or far quicker through taking a psychedelic, what happens is that actually you will not encounter those experiences. Those experiences are on the other end of the spectrum, so to speak, of the possibility of you being the limitation and everything being the state of no limitation. And so there's really a process needs to happen if you want to realize this, where you are getting out of the way, and this is actually not what your human nature and what you in your current state wants. As you are listening to those teachers and as you're listening to me, what you're actually trying to do is to strengthen your illusion. You have seen maybe through many things, you have seen through many aspects of your belief system that you now know are wrong or are different than you thought they were, and this gets your belief system a little bit shaking, and you don't really like that. And so what you're actually doing with all this spiritual knowledge about the past is trying to replace that with another model that's maybe more complicated or just different, and that you can believe in again. But on the way to truth, none of that matters, because when you are embodying those infinite possibilities of reality, then all of that is seen as just one part of the whole, as one story that you call your life, no matter how with which content you fill it. So this is just not what you can do to reach so-called enlightenment. But what you can actually do is arrive in pure being, and because that is actually what part of all of reality is. It's just being. And when you try to exercise that in every moment, full acceptance, full presence with everything that you can perceive, and you do that with the technique I call all-day awareness, or that is called all-day awareness, where you concentrate on all, or the goal is to concentrate on all sensory input. You start with one thing, like hearing, for example, and you try to constantly remind yourself, there is hearing going on. There is hearing in being, and you train, so to speak, your muscles of pulling yourself back into the present moment with the anchor of hearing each time. And someday this will become automatic, and hearing will just be always part of what is going on for you in the now. And then you take another sensory input like feeling. You rest part of your awareness not only on hearing, but another part on your sensations in your body, and this gets richer and richer over time as you develop that capability of focusing on things that are in the now. And so you add more and more things, and at one point this just overwhelms your mental capacity to be conscious of things so much that this separation and this pull out of the now into the future is actually going to stop. It will become shorter and shorter, and you will be much more closer to the now and not feel this tension to constantly become, which is pulling you out of what is. And just what is actually happening is it pulls you into just one very tiny part of your experience, which is this imaginatory capacity of us human beings, which is of course important. And when you train being present, you don't neglect that completely, but you give it just as much attention as is needed, and not basically your full attention to the exclusion of everything else. And this practice is really what brought me to different levels, to higher levels of consciousness, and also much deeper satisfaction with what is. And it also becomes easier to accept difficult situations, because you're not worrying about them in advance, that you will not be able to handle them, and you will come up with all sorts of stories about how this might turn out bad and how other things might be more to your advantage, and how you want to change situations. But when you learn to be fully present with each moment, then you gain the knowledge and understanding that this is a ability and capability that will always be with you, and you will make it stronger, and it will help you tremendously in difficult times. And this is just a wonderful thing to develop outside of specific knowledge about the past and how to approach meditation and how to approach practices of personal development, which are all helpful to structure your life path and your life story in a just more creative and more helpful way, not only for yourself but also for others. And with all of this, I guess the seeking will come to an end, and you will know how to seek in every moment exactly what is, and not try to change it and be where you are, and still have this vision. Of course, this vision of the future that constantly tries to do something in the now to reach a different state in the future is part of being human. It's nothing that you have to discard. It's actually what drives this, what drives your life, what drives this illusion. And you just throw acceptance and love to that too. And you just love everything, and don't try to avoid constructing separations within your experience. Because when you say you are going to push away one part in your experience, and you're going to dislike someone, or you're going to dislike this situation, then what you're actually doing is creating a part in you that is fighting another part in you. Because from our understanding of how the brain works, how psychology works, everything we perceive is not actually the object itself, but is actually a mental representation of that object, or of that emotion, of that person. So whenever you feel hate towards something, or not even as strong as hate, but maybe just you are offended by something, then what is actually happening, you allow one part of your mental creation to be labeled bad, and you push away a part of you, and you create these separations not within the world but within yourself, and you become less than whole. And by really accepting everything that arises, no matter how painful, no matter how bad the situation is, you will gain this feeling of completeness, of wholeness again, which doesn't mean you cannot act out according to what you feel. You can still tell people what you think is right and wrong and so forth, and don't let everything happen to you, of course. But when it happens, it doesn't help you to push away those emotions and feelings even stronger, because that reinforces them only. But when you encompass them in your field of acceptance and of love, then you will just take away their strength, and you will take away the fuel for those emotions. And this ties in with the practice of accepting everything in the moment, because where do they arise? They just arise in the now. And so it's basically was just an elaboration of accepting everything in the now. And this were the points that I wanted to share with you. I feel they helped me a lot. So this is also not a thing that you can hear once and see it as another theory of how to get enlightened. This is a practice. This is a daily practice, and you need a reminder of this. So maybe listen to it again, write down notes and put them somewhere where you see them every day, where you can remind yourself that you wanted to be in the present, in the now. I do it by having a reminder on my phone, which says, I think, something like mindfulness or all-day awareness, and it just pops up at intervals throughout the day, and it just gives me this small reminder and pulls me back whenever I forgot about this and got too much drawn away from the now into my imaginations and hopes and struggles. And so yeah, I hope this will help you. Let me know what you think in the comments, please, and give this video a thumbs up, and share it if you feel so, if you feel it helps someone, and see you in the next video. Ciao.